And so
can you see?
What you want to do is you want to share your desktop or share the screen so they can see the presentation.
Okay, hold on. So share my desktop. Okay. Does everybody see that?
Looks good.
Okay. So I'm going to move this. Okay. And Mary and Stephen, just let me know when I get to your section, when I need to forward the slide. Okay. So Mary, Stephen, and I are going to present on Chapter 4, Collection Development. And our presentation will go over these aspects of the chapter by bringing in outside resources to share. And so the structure of the chapter went as this. So the main idea of collection development is you need to find materials to be included in the collection, and these are what are needed or relevant. And so this is where, of course, the concept of weeding would come in. And then the second thing is that materials need to be evaluated. So this is the evaluation and the assessment process. And then once you've done that, that's when you actually need to purchase specifically for your library. And we will go over how all these ideas pertain to the main libraries that were the groups that were in, so academic, public, school media, and specialty research libraries. So I'm going to cover locating relevant materials. And there are numerous tools and resources out there, I'm sure you guys saw from the chapter. And the first thing, though, I think that we kind of have to wrap our head around are these ideas. You have to know your library first, and then either create or consult your collection development policy. And I wanted to share the example here from the National Library of Australia. And I hope this will go smoothly. If not, I can just not do it. Yeah, what I'm going to do is just not do that. But yeah, the example, I just liked how it was concise, it was to the point, and I think you just have to be very clear in your policy. So then what you do is you search accordingly to that policy for your resources. And I wanted to go over some things that I found. Of course, all of us have probably realized how important and informative ALA resources are. And so they have web-based tools. And since the links are not tending to go very smoothly, the web-based link I have here takes you to an A to Z professional resource page, which gives you tons of links that you can find book lists that cater to all types of libraries. And that's the cool thing about ALA is they fit all sorts of library resource types. And I just went to the one in New Orleans. It was my first one. And I was just amazed at how informative it would be with the exhibition tables. You had vendors for databases, you had book sellers, tons of resources for you to kind of meet faces and talk to them and really get more ideas. You had presentations, really big ones, and then you also had really small, intimate poster presentations on current library trends. And I also included just a picture of all the free books that I got. This was very small compared to my colleagues and what they took home, but you got to meet the authors and actually put a face to a book. And then I heard a lot of seasoned librarians and new librarians say that they were going to take these books back, these review copies, and actually share them with their library and see if they wanted to add them to their library. And there are conferences for all types of libraries. And the next thing is also just simply learning from each other. I think this is the best way, is to learn from your colleagues, and you also might meet mentors and people that have been in the business longer. The first three links basically are taken to a forum located on the Association for Library Collections and Technical Services page, which is a division of ALA. The last link takes you to American Association of School Librarians and some forums that you can also consult there. But I think there's a forum for everything. I noticed when I was searching for that. And then book sources and reviews. These are catered towards public, academic, and school libraries. The first resource, I was actually curious about what Dr. Washburn would think about that and what more seasoned librarians would, but it tended to seem like it catered to librarians. And you had all sorts of book lists, such as Spanish, young adults, etc. And then Kirkus Reviews was one that was mentioned in the chapter, but I love their statement here that they really are based their plan on integrity, honesty, and accessible reviews written by an insider's eye. And this is the link here if you wanted to consult it if you haven't already, looked at them. And then the last thing was I was really trying to find research and specialty, how to find relevant resources, because these tend to be harder to find, I've noticed. But I decided to take a researcher's kind of tactic, and I just consulted library literature and information science database through UNCG and did simple search terms as research databases and reviews. And I did the usual things that we're taught to search with, the parameters. And I found numerous articles that may help in database or book selections for this type of library. And the one that I have here is a comparative analysis of library journal holdings and works referenced in faculty publications. And the main thing that I found was that aggregators like EBSCO and ProQuest provide a significant amount of access to serials titles, and that the study found that open access resources were used by reputable and professional faculty. So this made them really think that they were important to actually add to their collection. And I'm going to see if this one works. I don't know. I'm sure you guys have consulted Library Journal, but if it doesn't work in a second, yeah. So I just was thinking that, oops, it's going to act up on me. Yeah, so I'm sorry. I thought these links would work very well. But the main thing is, say if it's best databases of 2017, that's a good place to start. So if you were an academic, say, genealogy librarian, if one of the best resources, if you had a good resource for a genealogical database, that might be a good place for you to start to see why it was so good. So then Mary now is going to cover evaluation and assessment, that section.
All right, can you hear me?
I can.
You can?
Yeah, I'm going to mute.
Are you going to mute yourself, or?
I will, yes.
I mean, you don't have to. I don't care.
Okay, yeah, maybe I won't. I'll just stay quiet.
That's fine.
And okay. And present.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So I'm going to take us into evaluation and assessment. And when you hear the words evaluation and assessment, you think kind of the same thing, very similar. But we saw on the chapter that we read that that they are different in So Tara just presented on finding relevant material, and now I'm going to go into how to decide if it's good material and if it fits your library. Okay, next slide, Tara. Thank you. Okay. So the difference between evaluation and assessment, and sorry if you hear background noises, I'm in a hospital lobby. So evaluation is considering resources by its qualities, deciding if this is a good resource in itself. Is it good off of what it offers users? And in the book, it listed a lot of different evaluation criteria, and of course it differs by your library and what you're looking for and what's needed. So I said children's books, it can be juvenile literature, etc. But generally include what is in the book, the content or the context, if it has accurate facts, what the writing style is, does it look nice, is it going to interest or catch your reader's eyes, is it easy to use and navigate, does it come with tools that make it accessible for all people, for people that are visually impaired, hearing impaired, etc. And then, of course, cost in relation to how good it is and what you're getting out of it. Like, is the bang worth your buck? And then there's also a bunch of different evaluation lists and more criteria, depending on if it's like a print source, is it online, is it a video resource, etc. So next, yeah. And so now the difference. So evaluation was we are figuring out if it's a good resource in of itself, and now assessment is we're considering the resource in relation to your specific library. Is it going to work in your library? Is it going to fit with your current collection, or what we talked about, having a collection plan, right? Is it going to fit in that collection plan? And is it going to help you reach your end goal, your library's mission of what you're trying to accomplish with your development collection plan? And then with consortial obligations. So I said, will this good resource that we've already evaluated and decided it's a good resource for us, will it benefit your library and help your users? And again, it differs by the library and what you need, what your plan is. So we were trying to, as a group, meet the goals of all of our different LIS focus areas. So for public libraries, that would be community interest. Is it going to help all of your users? Because in a public library, you have multiple ages. For the specialty research libraries, is it going to help specifically your library? Like if you're a law library, is it going to help further your law students and attorneys that come to you? I don't know a lot about that, so yeah. And then for the academic, is it going to benefit your faculty and your students, their interests? Is it going to engage them? Are your college and grad students going to be able to come and easily use those resources? And then I put at the bottom, also taking into account what type of resources your library needs. Because it went in the chapter talking about print or digital, and all the different things that those two differing things bring into the picture. Next. Thanks. And then I was trying to come up with a bunch of looking up different sources for evaluating and assessing, and a lot of the resources that I put on here we've all seen, but it's good to get a reminder, or maybe you haven't seen all these. And they gave you lists of like award winners and medal winners and books and everything that they've already reviewed, e-books and online resources they've already reviewed and deemed as good resources for you to use. So for school media and academic, I put everybody knows the school library journal. It has reviews, it has articles, it has different stuff for school librarians. And then we have YALSA, which is for young adults. It's another great resource. For public, we had Novelist. And I know a lot, well, the public libraries around me have NC Live, which has like ProQuest and Novelist and different stuff on there. And ProQuest is great too, along with Novelist. And then Kirkus Reviews, which Tara talked about earlier, is also a great resource. And then I was looking, and I came across the Association of Research Libraries, which was pretty cool, looking into that and everything. But I think you have to have a subscription if you're a specialty research library, and so it's a really great tool to use. And then ALA, which we all know about, and then like Goodreads, Case Dive, Fantastic Fiction. They're okay. They're not as trustworthy as our more scholarly websites above, but I'm not going to lie, I have a Goodreads account that I like keep up with and everything. And then at the bottom, I noted that these websites can be used for any library. I was just trying to separate them out a little bit based on being able to help these different focus areas. Next. Oh yeah, and if you guys have any comments or questions, like Dr. Washburn said, that'd be great too. Go ahead and post them. Sorry, I just looked at that. And so then best practices for e-resource selection. So this is one that Kara had found and that we put into my section because it had to do with evaluating online resources. And so sorry, I'm like getting all tongue-tied. It's a source that goes into the key issues for collection development on online resources. It gives different reviews and criteria and stuff. And the intention was for the document is intended for use by libraries around the world, regardless of experience dealing with the e-resources and regardless of service orientation, whether it's academic, public, our school media, or specialty in research. And so it's a user-friendly search engine, and it gives you all sorts of resources pop up when you go in and you search for an item. And then the resource caters to all library types. And next I'm going to hand it over to Stephen, who's doing decision to purchase. Let me mute myself. All right.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Stephen. Yep.
Very nice, very nice. And so I'm Stephen, and I'm going to discuss and lecture about the decision to purchase. Now, what I'm going to do here is, in the following slides, is talk about the cycles of a purchase for four libraries, which are the special libraries, the academic libraries, the school libraries, and the public libraries, because, and it's important to know, and I feel that it is very important to know about the cycles, and how the process goes with purchasing items, because as we saw in the textbook, we saw the different people and the different fields that you can purchase in, but not really about the cycles. So I'm going to be discussing about the cycles in purchasing as we have a look here. So beginning with a special research library, with special libraries and research libraries, the purchasing process for this particular institution is can be long and very complicated, but it can be rewarding when performed well. And the three big components of the special library purchase are planning, negotiation, and the scanning of conversion of materials. As seen in the lecture video last week about planning and how there are multiple layers to planning, like looking at budgets, looking at policies, finding a mission and a goal of knowing what to purchase. That is probably the most important component in the purchasing process is the planning, because all it takes is one idea from one person or from two people or three people to start the purchasing process, and this is especially critical in special libraries because the material that is being purchased may not be as readily available as say an academic library or a public library would purchase. So really, planning is the most important component, and negotiation goes with the territory of planning. It's important to be able to negotiate and be able to convince members in a library or your workers in a library, as well as with the people, your purchasers, to be able to acquire certain materials that are of interest, see if it fits in with the budget, fits in with the policy, and then the scanning and conversion materials, because in today with materials becoming very digitized and electronicized, being able to scan and convert these materials for purchase is as critical. And now notice in the asterisk there, special library purchases are cyclic, because this is an ongoing cycle, and when there's no distinct time period. In some cases, sometimes the purchase may go very well and be quick, and other times it might not. And in this one is a good link about the. Here is a link by the College and Library Research, authored by 3 co-authors. You can look at this, and it will show some charts on the cost of library collections and for metrics of library sources. Next one. Academic purchase. So this is for of course colleges, just specifically. Now, academic purchases generally follow a time frame of 9 months, and they usually go from June to March. And that is when the libraries for the current fiscal year, the libraries take in requests for purchase of materials, and there are deadlines to meet. Generally speaking, for colleges, but it depends, of course, on which day. Depends on certain colleges. Some colleges start early, some colleges start late. But generally speaking, by September, 1/4 or 25% of the library department must have at least 1/4 of the department on board with the plan to purchase materials. By November, 50% of the department has to be on board. By February, 75% or 3/4 have to be on board, and by March, 100%. It has to be unanimous by March. You can take a look in the links with the collection development policy example with the first link from Ithaca College in Ithaca, New York, and the second link is on the book selection and purchasing by Dr. Gary King, who is a social sciences professor up in Harvard, and you can learn about how the process goes with planning and purchase. But basically, with the academic libraries, they do follow a time frame, and they do have deadlines to meet. Any materials that cannot be met in the fiscal year are usually moved to the next fiscal year and go into budget deductions, which is ideally what a college would preferably avoid, because any loss in any library budget can hurt the momentum and can hurt the opportunity for academic libraries to purchase in the future. So that's academic purchase. School library purchase also follows a particular time frame. And just like with special libraries, it starts always with planning. And in this case, they usually start planning from May, and it runs usually until July. But what's different is that in the second part, the awareness and familiarity, which runs from August to December, that is when the school library, usually the staff, will get together and try to become familiar with the materials they're trying to purchase. So trying to get familiar with the source, trying to get familiar with what it's about, and then raising awareness about it, like new releases. They might advertise for new releases. And then the third component, which is January to April, which is the consideration and trial. That's when the library members will take the source that they've acquired and usually what they do in the consideration trial is they put their source out and see how it does with the students and with the faculty and staff, with the teachers, and to see how well it goes. If it goes very well, if the source is commonly used and is in demand, and the demand is very good for it, they will consider the fourth bullet point, which is purchase, and that usually is in the summertime, usually in June, or in the case of, or if it's not reliable for purchase, then it goes back to, then we go back to the planning and it starts all over again. And you can see, you can read more about it in the link by Agile Education Marketing, link below. Public library purchase is an interesting one. Unlike the school libraries, which, as you know, with schools, because those are on a schedule and they follow a certain time period, schools are in session, that's when it's an opportunity to trial. In public libraries, because it starts more with checking the source. So the first step is usually checking the availability of a source that is usually requested by someone in the library. Might be a customer, might be a passerby, and they check the availability of the requested source. And if it's not available, then what they do is they have to check if the source meets the criteria by provisions of the collection development policy, according to the public library, and it's not. And then what then happens is they have to negotiate and select the formats of the source. So if the client wants wants a book, in this case, they would have to select. They would have to select the format would be a book. But it could be electronic, it could be digitized, etc. And then the fourth one is to this is sometimes needed. Observe other options for ordering if needed. Like if there's a situation where they can't get where the public library cannot get the source from one spot, they might have to look at other options. They might have to go to retail. They might have to go somewhere else to order the source. But again, only if needed. And you can once again, a link below. This is a Bellingham Public Library, which is in Washington, that you can look at their guidelines for purchasing for books if they're not available. Okay. Now, this was briefly touched a little bit in the book about purchasing from retailers, and this is, and the reason I made a slide on this was because this is important to know, because this is what public libraries sometimes they resort to, is having to purchase from retailers, because sometimes you can't get the book from somewhere else, and you have to just purchase a copy themselves, used or new, sometimes new, sometimes old. And so libraries are allowed to do that, but one of the common problems, as mentioned in the book, is that the institutions usually face problems with tax charges, and that's because, as we all know from, as any of us who have purchased on Amazon know, how when we purchase an item, we usually get charged for shipping and handling and the sales tax, and well, the same thing also goes for institutions as well. Whether ensuring that they can be free the institutions can be free of tax charges is truly a roll of the dice. There's no guarantee, but it's important to know that. But purchase from retailers is also so important because it applies to the marketing of libraries. This especially applies to public libraries that have that are able to market to Amazon, are more likely to be, I guess you could say, more recognized. People will be more aware of their name. You can read more about it from the ALA on marketing to libraries. And this is our impressions and reflections on the chapter.
And I can share, I guess, a little bit about this. The main thing is that the feeling that we need to constantly stay in tune to current trends was one thing as it pertains to collection development. It also, we got to increase personal proficiency on how to find resources, and that collection development is a long, complicated process, but important for building libraries. And then learning about this showed us how there's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that we're not aware of. And then the respect, of course, for collection development librarians. And the last thing is knowledge of collection development committees and the process it takes to finally purchase a good resource. So thank you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask us. And let me see. And I'm going to stop sharing and see what happens. And Dr. Washburn, hopefully that gave it back to you. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just took it back.
Okay, cool.
All right, well, thank you. That was very informative and insightful. There are some interesting components to that I really, it's going to take me a little time to kind of go through that because that was extensive. So I was very impressed with the quality of the